Welcome to Journey Through the Innerverse. Hello, Alexis. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing okay. I had a very, very busy weekend and now I'm freaking exhausted. So my mood is kind of like on the floor. Like I am the very low energy. So I do apologize for that, but I'm here and I am
You're
happy to
here.
be here.
Yeah, we both made it. I've had a busy weekend and it's still busy. This is kind of like I'm getting a little bit of a break, which that had consisted of just like laying on my bed. But I did make it as well. And here we are with an archive chat. So Alexis and I are sharing an art chat from the archives. This episode is focused on dream symbols, as I'm sure you've already seen when you pressed play. And yeah, we're going to be talking about trees, teeth, and houses. It's quite random, but it's a really good chat. So
It is a good chat. We had this live chat on August 14th of 2024, and we really dive deep into the dream symbols and how they show up in our dream space. I mean, almost everyone has had dreams about teeth. Almost everyone, I'm sure, has had dreams about houses. Trees are a little bit more, random, but at the same time, I've had multiple dreams where I'm in a forest. So if you'd like, share your experiences. We'd love to hear and just see how it has affected you and how it's shown up.
absolutely.
So currently, right now, Urania and I are working with a developing app called Dreamigos. It's a wonderful app where you can record your dreams in a variety of different ways, and you can also, if you'd like, um, put your dreams in the Dreamline, which makes it public for the community and allows dream experts like Urania and I to comment, help with interpretation and guidance. It's really a wonderful community, and we highly recommend it. You can get this app on the Apple Store or you can go to the Google Play Store. It's amazing. And if you join and you want to share your dreams to the Dreamline, there's a high probability we'll be the ones interpreting your dreams.
So we just had our last dream circle for the season. And as we mentioned in our previous episode, we are taking a bit of a break for the summer. And then we're going to return in the fall with another series of dream circles. So we don't have any dates decided on yet. And so stay tuned to learn when our next dream circle will be. And we would love to connect with you all at that time. So, as Alexis and I have already mentioned, that there's been so much going on. I was recording Cosmic Climate yesterday, and I thought about it as I was sharing there how I had so much going on. I was like, oh, yeah, it is Gemini season. So, it makes sense that we would kind of be like busy bees and like very energetic. Like Alexis, I know you were visiting friends and going back and forth and just like those little short distance travels, which I've been doing a lot of that. Like since my mom has gotten in town Sundays, just like, we're going to go to this store, we're going to go here, we're going to go there, we're going to come back home, then we're going to go here and go there. And it's just like, I am not used to that. So yeah, I got wiped. I like
It's
wiped
so
out.
funny too. It was like a whole weekend of nonstop go, 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 go. And like I'm I'm like a homebody. Like I like being home. I don't particularly enjoy going out too often. Not that I don't enjoy it, but it drains my battery. And I
Yeah.
had a wonderful time with everybody I met with, and it was wonderful. It was great. I had so much fun. But today I'm absolutely wiped. Like every ounce of energy was put into my weekend, and now I'm like dead on the couch.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we have to like recharge our batteries after that. And it's like, yeah, and it's a good time. It's for a good cause, like you're spending time with friends and I'm preparing for my daughter's, last day of school. And this is her first year of school or not. What did I say? Did I say last year or last day?
I don't know, but it
Oh,
is the
okay. Well,
last day of school.
last day, right? So her last day of school, or her last day of her first year of school, right?
Mhm.
So it's kind of a big deal. It's exciting. I'm excited for her to have summer, and so yeah, it's been a like preparations for that, and So yeah, it's been a time and it's just going to continue to be busy, but I'm grateful for everything that I'm experiencing and all the things. So that's kind of the energy right now. I'm curious if those of you, listening, if you have been experiencing this Gemini energy, maybe just like talking to people a lot, even if you're not leaving the house, like maybe you're having more ongoing conversations or this is a podcast about dreams, so I'm curious if you've been having a lot of engagements with people or just a lot of movement within your dream space. So for me, I'm noticing that it like fluctuates, like when right before Gemini season started and maybe into the first week I was having dreams about or not necessarily about other people but friends from like decades ago, from like childhood and even like ex-lovers, and there's just so much activity with people in my dreams. And now I think since it's been a lot going on in my external world, my dream space has been like, I'm remembering only bits and pieces, so which is normal.
Same. I my dream space has been kind of like TV static the last couple days just from how busy I've been, but that's expected. I feel like when we're extremely busy in the waking, we need rest. Like we need to rest.
Yeah, yeah. Can you hear the dog barking in the background? Oh, okay, cool. um Otherwise I was gonna wait till I don't know what she wants, but anyway. um so Yeah. So as far as, dreams and astrology, what to really look out for, what's interesting is that there is a lot of energy in the external world. Also, we're in the waxing part of the season or the cycle, the lunar cycle. And I'm feeling, though, this pull towards still like releasing, right? And so maybe just like the activity or the growth or just like the increase of illumination is maybe more things are coming to surface through the dreams. And as they come to surface, we want to continue to like meet that energy with like releasing what is unnecessary, or just like, yeah, just kind of making the refinements to our lives like on the go, so to speak. Like it's like reflection, refine, reflection, release, more information, reflection, release, more information. So that's kind of in general what I'm getting for this weekend with dreams. I also just want to share there's one more transit at the end of the week, and that with the moon. So the moon is going to reach her waxing gibbous in Scorpio. So that brings up a lot of emotional intensity. Also, being that it's the moon's not quite full yet. So there's a lot of intensity within that. But with her not quite full, but in Scorpio, it feels like there's a preparation for some sort of powerful transformation, right? So the last full moon was in Scorpio. And I think that with this moon, there might be a bit more that's coming to the surface through the dreams that's going to prompt further transformation. And on that same day, the moon will have a conflicting connection with Pluto. So the moon being in Scorpio, making a conflicting connection with Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And again, it's just kind of it's like adding fuel to the fire, right? And like both energies are very passionate and very like deep and intense. So, I mean, this weekend, of course, pay attention to your dreams because something very powerful what might come forth, and that'll help you to like fully push or release what's necessary in your life right now, especially as the following week on June 11th, we're going to have a full moon in Sagittarius. So, um, yeah. So there's a lot going on in
Yes,
the
there
dream
is.
space. I had to just cut myself off there because I wanted to add some things. But oh, one thing I will add on the 8th, so Sunday of this week, Mercury will move into Cancer. So that'll be nice for the dream space in the sense that, again, there's probably going to be a lot of communication within dreams, like past loved ones, ancestors, family, like a lot of people that you care about, maybe friends that are like family to you showing up in your dreams. So that is something that will be interesting to see um, as we move into the next week too. So think that's pretty much it for the cosmic climate or the energy. Is there anything else that you want to add before we open up the archive chat to the listeners?
Yeah, so I was just going to say with Mercury in Cancer, I know we're talking about trees, teeth, and houses right now, but a dream symbol that might show up for you is water. So you might have, ponds or lakes or waterfalls or ocean or cups of water, water slides, or whatever it may be, rain. You might just have rain in your dreams. Pay attention to that dream symbol that might show up in relation to Cancer and Mercury.
Yeah, and you got me thinking also like houses, maybe your childhood house with that Cancer energy, just connecting to
Oh,
your
yeah.
home, like, and the nostalgic energy. So there's a chance that one of like the houses might be in there as well. So that awesome. That was a
Absolutely.
good point.
Let's hope not teeth. I don't
Right?
wish teeth
Oh,
dreams
yeah. I'm
on
like,
anyone.
who has a fun teeth dream? I'm like,
I
those are
don't
never
know.
fun for me.
I've never heard anyone tell us that they had fun in their teeth dreams. Like the
Right.
worst feeling is like feeling like all your teeth are falling out of your
Oh
mouth. Like what?
gosh.
If there's somebody out there who likes that, I guess let us know.
Yeah, we would love to hear because I want to hear that story, that dream. That would be fun. All righty. Well, enjoy everyone, and we'll see you on the other side. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another week of dream sharing, discussion, just all the reveals and the beauty of the mysticism of the subconscious and yeah, the dream realm. So welcome in. Hello, Alexis. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Today's been a busy day and it's interesting because I feel I say that every week, but seriously, it's busy and the energy is not slowing down. So I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that. And sometimes it's good busy. Like the things I did today were all in alignment with the things that I love to do. And I was literally in my car en route to do a reading at a nature park. And I literally was like, I love my life. I love my life. Like, this is so great. I'm about to get paid doing the thing that I love in a nature park. It was so beautiful. So it was a good busy. And I feel really blessed and grateful to just be able to fully indulge in my passion projects. So I feel good. All right, everyone. So, if you're joining us live, definitely feel free to say hello in the chat. Let us know where you are tuning in from. Of course, we always welcome you to share your thoughts, your perspectives, share your dreams, whatever you can share in the chat. Definitely feel free to share there and ask us questions as we talk about tonight's topic, which is the first chat on our series of dream symbols, common dream symbols. So we're going to talk about these common dream symbols, how they can show up, of course, in your dreams and how to interpret them. Any thoughts on anything you want to add to that,
I'm
Alexis?
so excited for this series. It's going to be so good. Like I'm learning more, I'm sharing with other people, and hopefully, we all together can learn to, understand ourselves through our dreams better. That's what this is all for. And I'm
Yeah.
just so excited.
Yes. And so tonight we're going to focus on three common dream symbols for this particular chat. So we're going to focus on trees, teeth, and houses. I know that probably sounds really random. Like, how did we just choose these three symbols? Because they don't really, have some sort of underlying connection, or maybe they do. We'll discuss
It's
that
just our
here.
intuition.
But yeah, our
We
intuition,
just
what I really
threw it
wanted to
out
talk
there.
about teeth because I feel that is an interesting, weird dream that people have. It's definitely one of the top common ones. I was really fascinated by trees in a dream because I don't think I've experienced my own dreams with trees in them. And then houses, houses is there. That's another like really common one that you could just
Yeah,
go really deep with that. So I'm really
absolutely.
excited about these dream symbols. And if there are other symbols that you would like us to chat about, definitely let us know, comment on this video, or you can send us a message And whether it's Instagram or, through email, you can send me a message via connect at uraniauniverse.com. And yeah, and we can definitely add that to our series of common dream symbols and how to interpret them. Let's define what a dream symbol is. I feel definitions are good because they put us on the same page, right?
Yeah.
There could be many ways, like many different definitions or many ways to define something. So I think it's good to have that clear definition of where our perspective is, what our foundation is here for this chat, and then we can move forward from there. Dream symbols essentially are the keys to unlock psychological forces. Now, this is the dream symbol that was presented by this Jungian Life podcast. I love this podcast, and they just released an episode on unlocking the power of symbols. I'll actually put the link to that in the description of this video if you want to check it out.
It's so
And
good.
it's really,
It's
really
so
good.
good. This
And
person who is guest starred on this episode, his name is Murray Stein. He was so insightful, and he has
yeah.
so much history in his, education around dream work and Jung
Mm-hmm.
and psychology, and it's such an insightful episode. I highly,
Yeah.
highly recommend it. I mean, the
Yeah.
podcast itself is fantastic, but this
Yeah.
just blew me away.
Yeah, and I would say he's like an elder in the
Yes.
community. So he's a Jungian analyst, and so he's had a lot of experience with dream work, consultations and things of that nature. And yeah, you can just tell it's just. I mean, he did most of the talking the whole episode, so it was really great. I was
Yeah,
like, this is awesome. Yeah,
it was fantastic. I like that he kind of had his stream of consciousness come out, because everything
yeah,
he was saying was so just, it just made, as soon as he said it, I was like, it makes so much sense. That's what I feel. Like it was really refreshing to listen to his perspective. And he actually he has his own practice where he does analysis and psychology in Switzerland, I think.
oh yeah, yep,
I think it was
yeah.
in Switzerland. I could be
Hmm.
wrong on that,
No,
but
it is. It's in Switzerland. Yeah. No, that's amazing. He's very, very wise. And again, his name is Murray Stein, Murray Stein. So yeah, they define a dream symbol as the keys to unlock the psychological forces. They have transformative potential to heal our suffering and restore our relationship to the center of our being. These images connect our waking minds to the unconscious reservoirs of creativity and emerging potential. They are the bridge between the material and the spiritual worlds, and the symbols specifically have a magnetic quality to it.
yes. I loved all of that. That whole, like, every aspect of the definitions that you just,
Yeah. Well,
it
it
just
was
felt good.
interesting because I was looking at three different dream, you could say, dictionaries, reference books, and they didn't really define what a dream symbol like is. And I'm looking at the beginning of the book. I'm like, they just kind of jump into it, and they give you different types of dreams. And of course, we have dream themes, which that was something I was coming across too as dream symbols. But I didn't find that. And I was so grateful for this podcast because I was like, okay, nice. They clearly defined what a dream symbol is. And we're also going to talk about just briefly about the difference between signs and symbols, right? Because they
Yes.
actually gave some sort of definitive of they are a bit different. So we'll talk about that too. But what do you have for dream symbols?
So the first definition I got from the book I'm reading right now, which is Cloud9 Dream Dictionary, written by Sandra A. Thompson. And her definition is: dream symbolism can be a reflection of the personal idioms, puns, or slang with which you're familiar, which, I felt like that was an interesting take on it, like things
Mm-hmm.
that are intertwined into your growth and personal experience through your life, like,
Mm-hmm.
in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I was listening to the podcast, Murray Stein had mentioned that the symbol is the best possible representation of something that is still unconscious. And that is quoted
Mm,
by Jung.
mm.
I mean,
Yes.
I think from a very like um what's the word? Like I think Sandra's definition is kind of more like surface level. And I don't mean that in like a negative way, but
Hmm.
it's not as spiritually deep as the other
Hmm.
definitions that I have found,
Yeah.
which is fine
Yeah.
because it's good to have
Have the layers.
multiple perspectives. But
Yeah.
the definition that you provided from that podcast, oh,
Yeah.
that for me just hit the nail on the
Yeah.
coffin. Like
I know. That's why I was
that
like,
was
ah,
perfect.
yes. I was like, thank you, because I mean, I was gonna have to do Google, and I was like, I really don't want to do Google for this. That I really enjoy going to the books, and yeah, I mean, they just really hit the nail on the head with that. And I definitely I feel with Jung saying, okay, it could be something, a representation of something within the unconscious, which is true, especially dealing with dreams. And also, it can be like, I feel it's a little bit of both, where it can also be something that you do have conscious awareness of. Like, say, if it's a deity or a particular, like an animal or something of that nature, that is a symbol for you or that is meaningful for you. Like, that's meaningful, but I feel like the deeper symbolism and how that relates to you is definitely going to tie back to the unconscious aspect, that
The
that you're not,
hidden
maybe not,
zest.
the hidden
Yeah.
aspects, right? So there's so many layers and nuances to all of this, right? To the symbols
Yeah.
that we experience. But I definitely do agree that meaning is everything, like what it means to you uniquely. And you and I talk about this all the time when it comes to dream interpretation. It comes back to you. Like, I
Yep.
could tell you what, like, we'll talk about the meanings of these dreams, but or these symbols, but and you'll see that there's so many different ways to interpret them, and it really comes back to your own unique way. So maybe some of these interpretations will resonate, maybe none of them will resonate. And what will resonate and what's perfect is what the way in which you connect to it and what it pulls out of you.
Yeah, and if anyone listening hears these three symbols we're going to talk about today, and the the way that we interpret it based on our findings doesn't resonate with you, please reach out and let us know what these symbols mean to you if you
Mm-hmm.
feel comfortable, because it's always cool and profound to expand that knowledge of how to interpret one symbol. It's
Yeah.
really crazy what it means to you specifically. I mean, there's 8 billion people in the world and
Mm-hmm.
counting. So like it's just an interesting concept to see what other people get from it as well.
Absolutely. So Mary is saying that an identifier, so this is, I think, Mary's definition, sorry, of a dream symbol. What that might mean for her is that, I'm going to say, for me, it is the imprint left on my soul as I wake, and it lingers, like, or even a dream symbol like love in the eyes of the beholder. Yeah. So I think I know Mary had commented on the poll. We'll talk about our polls in a little bit, but Mary definitely commented that emotions are her symbols, like her indicators. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt, because I did ask Mary, for more info about that, like what that meant, or was there a specific symbol? And what I found interesting, Mary, is that you really couldn't put it into words. Like, you did go deeper, but it was just like what you were saying kind of said the same thing. And I thought that was interesting, because it's a pure feeling that you uniquely have. And you can't necessarily, I mean, maybe you can put an image to it, maybe you can put more words to define it, but it really is a feeling. And I thought that was really interesting and incredible. So thank you for sharing that. And that definitely makes sense. Like, when you wake up, and that, I know that's one of the things that they pointed out in the podcast, I believe, was to pay attention to how, or no, it was in the dream dictionary I have, was paying attention to how you feel about the symbol in the dream. And of course, when you wake up too. So that emotion gives you an indicator if this was really meaningful or not, because you're not going to feel a certain way about it if it didn't mean anything. You're like, oh, that was interesting, or weird, or, that was that. So
Yeah,
that was really cool.
emotions play a huge role in our dream space for a lot of us. I know I definitely experienced that as well. And It does, like, especially when you look at the parallels of what your dream emotions were versus your waking emotions. Sometimes they correlate, sometimes they're opposite. And it's really interesting to kind of reflect on how that, like, what that means for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jay says, and I'm assuming this is your definition of a dream symbol, is it's an identifier that shows up pretty commonly in dreams compared to material reality, which can tell a dream from material reality. Dream dictionaries are biased on the author's knowledge of their own perception of imagery. Yeah, and I feel some of them, like the one that I have actually by Teresa Chung, is really good, and she actually, a lot of her stuff is from the Jungian perspective and from her own dreams. Like I did follow her a bit when I really got into the dream work and writing my dreams. And she actually, like, yeah, I guess she wrote some of the meanings from her own experiences and also talking to other people about dreams. And so, yeah, I mean, with anything, you're getting the perspective of other people in their studies and, their insights and information. And so it definitely, again, it's important to use your own intuition. But I do like to go to these dream dictionaries just to see, like, oh, okay, like, what is this general meaning of this, and does this resonate? Because I've definitely had a lot of aha moments, the toilet and restrooms being one of them. Because I was like, why does this keep showing up?
Yep.
And when I looked at the meaning of it, I was like, because it was talking about emotional release and the difference of like if you can relieve yourself versus like you're looking around for a clean bathroom and you can't use it. And it's speaking to this hesitation of the emotional release, which is every time I had those dreams, within 3 days, I would have a big emotional release. And so I would have never have, I mean, maybe I would have made that correlation, but the dream dictionary definitely helped me to do that. So yeah, I mean, I think it's like perfect for you to make your own dream dictionary and that be your reference. But I do feel like some of the dream dictionaries are really, really good.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, oh, and I'll say one that was interesting because I did go to the bookstore and to check out different dream dictionaries and dream books. And it was limited, as Alexis and I talked about at Barnes and Nobles. But there was one dream dictionary that it felt like one of those, I wouldn't say AI, but it was a dream dictionary where the publishing company basically gathered a bunch of authors, like various authors, and kind of made a book of their work. It was really weird. And I'm like, this doesn't feel right. So definitely do your research of, the dream books that you get, look into the author, and yeah, take your time finding these things because there's so many resources out there. So yeah, I would definitely look deeper into, what that perspective is of the individuals. So do you want to do you want to start with teeth?
Yeah, that sounds great to me.
Okay. So teeth are essentially it's such a common dream. I feel like most people have dreams about teeth. Primarily, I would say the most common is of them falling out.
Hmm.
And so yeah, and I have had experiences with dreams about I feel when I was younger about them falling out. Recently it was actually almost a year ago when I was facilitating a dream circle, and that was a part of my nightmare. It was dealing with my mouth, with teeth, and I knew it was something that was coming up for me as far as like I had to get dental work, or just like fears and anxieties and worries that were coming up dealing with having to get dental work or what was going on in my mouth. So that made sense. But I
Hmm.
thought it was interesting what I came across for teeth essentially is that it is a symbol of confidence, right? And your sense of security. And so if there's anything negative happening to your teeth, then that's an indication that you are having some sort of fears or anxieties with, your appearance, so to speak. And I felt like I do feel like that kind of resonates if I take it to a deeper level. I feel with teeth it can also associate with using your words, like speaking your truth. So if you are having dreams where your teeth are falling out, it could also indicate that you really need to get something off your chest. You really need to speak your truth, but you're hesitating. And like I always say, like the teeth falling out dreams tends to, at times feel like a nightmare or it's a really anxious dream. And so I feel like that is your psyche dialing up that fear factor. It's like, hey, pay attention to this. You need to use your words. Or, it could be a health thing, as I mentioned with myself. So that was
Mhm.
something I came up with the teeth aspect in dreams, or what I researched.
Yeah, that I feel like you covered a good chunk of what I found. I also, from what I found in, I'm using primarily the dream book that I have, the dream dictionary, um, and a little bit of like online sleuthing just to kind of get a little bit of an idea. And what I found was that there are a variety of different ways to analyze teeth in a dream, and I didn't think there would be this much. But I do find it interesting. So of course, like you had mentioned, it depends on like the state of the teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Falling out is one aspect of that, and that could, represent losing control,
Mm-hmm.
or loss of power or transition. I've also got that they can represent strength, greed, envy, overconfidence, and like taking too much, like biting off too much that you can't chew it type of energy in the dream. It could
Mm-hmm.
represent like you are overestimating your abilities, meaning
Mm-hmm.
like you may be putting yourself out there without the proper preparation. It can also represent the breaking down of psychological information to like better understand it within yourself. So like chewing and swallowing type of energy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I relate most to the falling out teeth. Like that is
Mm-hmm.
something that has been a consistent dream of mine. Not the same
Wow.
dream, but a similar experience of my teeth falling out one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually have a short dream that I can share to give you an idea of what
Yeah.
my personal experiences of this would be. So, this is a dream that I had, I want to say, between high school and college, which makes sense when I read it.
Mm-hmm.
It was dark out, and I was walking by an outdoor plaza. My teeth were loose in my mouth and were falling out. I walked into the dentist office, pleading for help, but the assistants and the dentist just looked at me disgusted and continued their conversation like I wasn't there. I continued to ask for help until I woke up. And I find that that dream stuck with me. And the reason
Mm-hmm.
it stuck with me is because at the time, that point in my life, I really felt like I was losing control. I wasn't doing good in school. I wasn't having
Mm-hmm.
help. My familial relationships were very rough, and like I had no ground to stand on. I was completely a mess. And like the feeling of having nobody to help me too was a lingering feeling in
Mm-hmm.
my waking state. Um, it was
Mm-hmm.
really like a representation of anxiety, losing control,
Mm-hmm.
feeling alone, feeling
Yeah.
unheard.
Yeah.
And, that kind of feeling really sticks with you because it's traumatic.
Yeah.
So that's my experience with and my kind of interpretation. And since we did the polls and the questions on our Instagram, one of the people who commented, who's a friend within the Cambodian culture, shared with me how they interpret different types of dream teeth or teeth and dreams. So in Cambodia, if your teeth are bleeding, it represents someone you know or love is going to become ill or is becoming ill, like somebody you know is sick in some way.
Yeah.
I want to say it's physical. I should have asked more questions, but I'm sure it can relate to physical, mental, emotional,
Yeah.
spiritual. And then another aspect of that is if the teeth are falling out, it means someone you know is going to die. So
Oh,
those,
geez. Yeah.
I know, those
Those
are
ancient
very like
groups.
scary.
Yeah.
Like
Those,
it's a scary interpretation.
yeah.
And
Sorry, one sec.
no, go ahead.
Um, Sorry. Continue.
I was just gonna say, like, I'm really happy that when my I've had these teeth dreams, like falling out, nobody I knew passed away. That I
Right,
know.
yeah.
I mean, someone could have died somewhere, but
Right.
I don't, I don't equate it to that personally, just because
Yeah.
that's a fear that I don't want to.
Yeah.
That's just intense. It's a lot of pressure.
Right. Well, that's one thing too. I was gonna also mention at the beginning of this chat is the different cultures, experiences, or just their practice with dream work and their
Yeah.
own interpretations of the symbols and dreams, and how that can really, like, what they experience can influence, how that shows up in their own psyche. And I feel like there's a connection, of course, to your culture and what's happening in your waking life, and also the times, right? And so maybe back when those correlations or those interpretations were relevant, or those were happening, that was a definite some wow, I can't even talk right now. There were definitely a representation of that experience, and it was kind of giving a heads up. But now as we evolve, it might change. And I definitely like Jace's point when he mentioned the dream dictionaries are, you have to really take it into account that it's based on someone's perspective, which that is totally
Yep.
fine. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, right? With
Absolutely.
these experiences. One of the really interesting points about teeth dreams as well, pointed to this being a type of dream that often occurs at a transitional point in someone's life. And so, how old did you say you were in the dream? Like 17, 8,
Yeah,
17, 18?
I had to be between 17 and 20.
Right. So that's a really big period, because you graduate from high school, especially when you turn 18, they're like, you're an adult now and you have to do
Hmm.
this, or you have to go to college. And it's just, there's so much going on that I could see, having that type of dream, because there is this overwhelming feeling. And if you don't feel supported, if you don't feel secure, that this kind of dream can come forth, as a
Absolutely.
representation of that, or
Yeah, and on
symbolically is
top
the
of
way.
that,
Yeah,
your brain is still developing. So I'm sure there's an aspect of your brain still developing that plays a role in that as well, which is very interesting to think about. Like that
mm-hmm.
transition of your brain becoming fully developed when you're in your mid to late 20s, you're already halfway through that point by the time you're between
Mm-hmm.
17 and 20. So,
Yeah,
what that means, I don't know, but I'm imagining that that is a transitional state.
absolutely. Yeah, so it definitely can really come up to when you're having issues communicating, as I was saying, or just having insecurities about, say, even asking for help. I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
it's really interesting that the teeth, correlate to security, and, also just worry and anxiety, of course. But when I think about it from an astrological perspective, I think about teeth being bones, and bones kind of being like the structure, the internal foundation of our body, so to speak. And
Yep.
so that's anatomy. But with astrology, I'm thinking about Capricorn's connection to bones, and the
Mhm.
structure and the discipline and the support system. And one of the things with Capricorn energy is that they don't there's always issues with vulnerability. Like, that's a part of the lesson that you're learning with Capricorn. So being able to ask for help, not having to, feel that you have to figure it out yourself or do it alone. And so I did come across, interpretations for the opposite end of the spectrum. If you see yourself having strong, white, clean, vibrant teeth, that's an indicator of strong friendships and financial security, you know. And so that kind of makes sense how that can go hand in hand with just feeling grounded and feeling solid and not like you're losing your structure and your foundation.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
very interesting. Awesome. So Mary says that, yep, molars equals parents' death. Yeah. Yeah. So accurate calculations for how they figured out what they knew for those times. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel with, you know, I'm sure I existed in the time of, you know, ancient Egypt. The Egyptians actually were considered to be the pioneers in dream interpretation, as their book of dreams was like the first known record of like a dream dictionary. Um,
Yes.
but I just think it's interesting because it was taking notes of the dreams. Like, so people were often sharing their dreams and then seeing how it showed up in your waking life, or seeing what happened and then taking note of that, right? Where now it's kind of the opposite, where we have the dream, we're like, oh, what did this thing mean? And then we go to the dream dictionary and then we, you know, impose those meanings onto our dreams. And, you know, the biggest thing and the best thing about dreams is that you kind of have to just wait and see. It definitely teaches
Yes.
patience. So,
Hmm.
you know, and that's why it's important to journal and write your dreams, because you can really keep track and see how things have evolved and how your life has changed, moving forward from those moments.
It's so important to keep your own personal history books, especially of the dream realm. You remember
Mm-hmm.
your memory, like if you are a constant active dreamer, then you remember a lot of your dreams. But if you're not somebody who dreams all the time and you don't remember your dreams as often, this will help you to remember them even more frequently. But
Yeah.
it's so important to keep these personal history books of yourself. It's really it's like a little gift to yourself to look back and see how you've evolved throughout your entire life. And when you can do it with the conscious and the unconscious, it just adds a whole other dimension to your
Yeah.
existence and your understanding of yourself.
It literally is the bridge between the material and the spiritual. Like
Yeah.
I love it. It's amazing. And when you continue to do the dream work, as we polled our people on Instagram, we were able to kind of tap into and see what people were, you know, dreaming about, what their common dream symbols are. And it's really interesting for yourself to take note of those dream symbols, what comes up for you in comparison to other people, because it's like we all have our different things happening. We all have our different dream symbols and all have our own unique psyche. And so it's kind of a really magical and transformative experience to, you know, have that record of that and to pay attention to those things.
Absolutely. I 100% agree.
Awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead to trees.
I thought that trees was so interesting. So trees can represent you and your state of your health process of self-development, stability, renewal, wisdom, and immortality. How that
Mm-hmm.
last one plays in, I don't quite know, but I interpret it myself as like um, looking into the possibility of immortality, because obviously we're mere mortals, or
Mortals.
what is the dream realm and how that equates to our mortal self. Do we it's we look, there's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I was looking into this, and one of the most interesting things I found was that dreams are archetypically related to labyrinths because of their roots and their branches, which, if
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what a labyrinth is, it's a maze, basically, like a very large maze.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that makes sense considering our own psyche and how, like, understanding our
Mm-hmm.
emotions and our experiences are mazes to get to. We're constantly working and hitting walls and going back and moving forward. So that type of archetype is really, it's really interesting, especially thinking about how dreams have incorporated themselves into your dreams. I
Mhm.
know I have a dream to share that will I can interpret for myself, but I just find this one very interesting.
Mhm.
And I wanted to add real quick that I included forests in this as
Yeah.
well. Trees make forests, so it just went hand in hand, in my opinion. I'm sure in most people's opinions as well, but so forests usually represent the unconscious, the unknown, the hidden, the potential for spiritual healing. It can also represent feelings of uncomfortability due to an issue bogging you down, like you can't see through the forest. So
Mhm.
that was so I just find this aspect so interesting. And I do have a dream, but if you want to go ahead and give your um,
Yeah. Yeah, I'll go ahead and
interpretation on the
share.
symbol of dreams, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so trees definitely have a strong archetypal symbolism to it, as it is considered to link us to the heavens, or it's kind of like the bridge between earth and heavens. As you were mentioning, the roots are very strongly grounded and networked into the literal soil and dirt of the earth, and its branches and like yeah, its branches reach all the way up to the heavens. And what also came through in the context of immortality is, for me, what came forth is that it can equate to longevity. That's one of the main, I would say, qualities of trees when you look at trees as symbolism and with spirituality is longevity. And I think when considering how old trees can get in comparison to just being human, that seems like I mean, they're ancient, they are
Yeah,
immortal. It's
I
like,
didn't
it's
even
just
think
within the
about that. I
context.
didn't even
Yeah.
think about that. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's so like on the nose too. Like it makes so much sense. Everybody
Yeah.
knows well, a lot of people know trees live very long lives. I did not even equate the
Yeah.
two.
Yeah, so definitely I can see, just if you want to be extreme about it. Yeah, it's like, yeah, they're freaking immortal. And
Yes.
with trees, they're considered to indicate or represent spiritual growth. They can also foretell happy consummation of hopes and desires. So that's more so looking at like the leaves, like how full it is. Like if it's a tree that has a full, like, some vibrancy, and just yeah, it's
Mm.
big, it's bright, it's bold. That can indicate some sort of happy consummation of hopes and desires. Dead trees, on the other hand, can signal or symbolize trees or sorrow and loss. Where I'm going with that.
So for did you how would you interpret an in-between state of a tree? Just that we're on this topic. So like you have the bright full ones represent that
Mm-hmm.
aspect, the dead trees represent that aspect. What would kind of be an in between, like a transitional? Is it kind of like
Yeah,
how would you
yeah. It's
interpret
like
that?
I would definitely consider the nature of the energy within the dream, like what's going on, what are you feeling in the dream as far as that goes. And yeah, but I do feel like it's a transition part. So which way is it going? And also, it might be like a seasonal thing too. So
It could be, yeah.
if it's a tree that is kind of in between, like, is it in between seasons, which is a transitional, period? Like, is it going from summer to fall, or is it like, spring to summer or something of that nature? So I definitely still get that indication of spiritual growth. And that's when you would look to the context of the dream to kind of get an indicator of, okay, how is this, showing up for me? What am I feeling in the dream? What else is going on, to
That's
get
a
a better
great point.
understanding? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
also,
in between for sure. Sorry.
yeah, no, you're good. So another interpretation of trees and dreams is that it can also indicate ambition will be realized. Again, another indication of spiritual intellectual growth is likely to take place in your life in the near future. If you have a dream where the tree is getting cut down, then they said that it can represent parting from a loved one.
Oh,
So,
that's a
which is
good, cause I
interesting. Yeah.
that's interesting too, because I wouldn't have interpreted it that way myself.
Yeah, I don't know specifically. I think that one there is more of a older interpretation, like a
It's
cultural
interesting.
elder type. Times were harsh. I mean, times are still harsh, but when I'm looking at these interpretations, I'm like, oh my goodness.
I
You
know
know, I see why there were like
some of them
dream
are a little
circles and
intense.
yeah. Oh, Jim is here. Jim says, hello, I just woke up. Happy to be here.
Hey, Jim.
Hello, good morning, good day to you. Happy that you're here. Awesome. So yeah, you said you have a dream to share on this one?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to get your insight on it as well. So I pulled this dream from my dream journal. It's from September 13th of 2023, which was on a Wednesday, like today, which is interesting. Um, so I was in a truck going very fast through narrow and winding roads in an unknown forest. I wasn't driving. I was sitting behind the driver's seat, looking out the window and then around the side of the truck. The people who were in the vehicle with me were almost unrecognizable. So kind of like glitched out, not really kind of blurred, not really able to see details in their face to make out who they were. Um, as more panic and anxiety crept in, we drove faster and faster. There was a, sorry, I can't, some of the dreams that I write down, I'm like wake up, eyes open, scribble down everything.
Yep.
So
Yep.
sometimes these words are
It's
like,
like, wait,
oh,
what?
Alexis, you could have taken a little time in between. I'll try this. I'll try this again. Oh, okay. There was a lot of muddy, dark reds and greens in the midst of the black. So like the whole forest it was dark and like there
Hmm.
was a lot of blackness surrounding. So it was like dark and muddied greens and reds. Um, and it was raining heavily now. It felt like there was a heavy cloud along for the ride. So like just the weight of everything kind of like pushing down on us. All of a sudden, we stop in the middle of the woods where an empty cutout is located. We all get out of the safety of our vehicle. The air was stuck. No, the air was thick and smells of autumn. We wait, staring
Wow.
at the darkness of the sky. And period.
Mm.
That was the dream. And I actually like
Wow.
as I'm reading it, I'm like, it's coming back to me
I love
when
when
I
that
had this
happens.
dream and what
Yeah.
the visuals were. But it's there's a lot of symbolism in that, and I do want to hear your point of view, just like with
Yeah.
the trees having so many underlying messages that could be interpreted in your dream. Like, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I feel, well, the first thing that stuck out to me is the end where there's like this, like the sky and the darkness. So what you mentioned, I can't remember your exact words, but it made me think of that reaching, looking up at the heavens because everything else was very like what's in front of you, what's happening here. And it finally felt like at the end, you had a moment to just take it all in and observe what's happening above. And then what else stood out to me was the essence of autumn, right? So it already felt like you're in this transitional place and then the colors of black, green, and red, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking like this dark hunter green is what came to mind and this bright, vibrant red. And it feels like autumn in that transition. And just with the darkness, it feels like it definitely feels like a transitional dream and a slowing down and being kind of more connected to nature, just to where you are. And it maybe, I don't know what was going on at that time, but maybe this was an invitation to slow down and to connect with where you are now, what's in front of you, but also like the bigger picture of what's happening and letting the cycle take its place and letting things, kind of die off. What really stood out to me is autumn and the colors and the
Yeah, I actually
darkness.
I agree with that. I also feel like, I'm sorry, I have like my throat's acting up. I don't know what's going on today. Like my
Throat chakra stuff. I'm having
yeah,
issues here
it's
too.
yeah, but
Talking today.
um anyway, so sorry. I also feel like the forests in this dream were representing like the hidden unconscious, like my hidden unconscious self. And yeah, that I'm
Mm,
transitioning from being more separate from myself to
hmm
understanding more and going
hmm
through the anxiety and feeling like it's too fast, like I want to hold on to what I was, and I'm not
hmm
like I wasn't entirely ready to jump
Yeah.
through, but I'm doing it anyway because I know that's what's important for me.
Yeah. Which makes sense too, as I'm still stuck on the autumn energy, probably because we're in the zone of autumn. But it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's the season of letting go and just like letting it fall
Yeah.
away, just naturally even
Shedding that layer
getting it. Yep.
or letting yourself die and be
So
reborn.
yeah, to be reborn. So we have a comment here from George. George says trees are stationary in their environment and forced to endure. That's actually a good one. I find
Mm-hmm.
inspiration in observing how a tree requires multiple generations to traverse its environment, and yet they persist. It can
Mm-hmm.
feel analogous to personal growth and learning from others. Absolutely, well said. Yes, I agree with
Yeah.
all of that. That's
I mean, even just like if you go to like places where they have like the largest tree, like one of where I work, we have one of the largest sycamore trees, largest and oldest sycamore trees in our area.
hmm
And if you look, there was fencing put in
hmm
into like from one side to the other, but over the years it expanded out and actually started morphing over the fencing. So when you look at
I
it, the
love that.
fencing is
Yeah.
eaten up by the tree. And it
Yeah.
is that something was put in there, something man made was changed, and it just grew over it.
Yeah.
It's just
I
so it's
love that.
crazy. It's
Yeah.
so adaptable and so
Yeah.
strong.
I love it. Ugh, I love trees. All
I
right,
do
we
too.
should. Okay, so Mary says it felt like a mudslide. She'd into your or yeah, okay. It felt like a mudslide into your transition. It was being moved, so it was heavy. And
There
then
was a lot
Jim's,
of rain.
yeah, that's interesting too, because the rain can indicate like a cleansing and a clearing, like
Yeah.
washing away. Jim says Lex needs to take the wheel of the truck. So whatever that means. Okay, so let's
Yeah,
go to
that no,
houses.
that's it. Get in the driver's seat
Get in the
and
driver's seat.
become more become more in control of yourself.
I really wanted to talk about cars, but I felt like, we'll definitely talk about
We'll
that in
get
one of our
there.
series, but I'm like, you guys have been hearing me talk about cars all the time. And in my dream, we're going to be talking about traveling. So,
Yes.
yes. Yes, taking the wheel of your life's direction is definitely important. All right, so the third common dream symbol that we're going to discuss tonight is houses. And so, yeah, houses, it's a big one.
It
It's going to
is.
be hard to like really keep this contained because there's so many different layers and perspectives on the house. But I do see the common perspective is that the house is a representation of your psyche, your conscious awareness, or the different aspects within your consciousness. Also, I've seen it referred to as just you, your personality, just who you
Yeah.
are. And then the different rooms are, again, aspects of you, like if you want to compartmentalize them and break them down. And so when you do have a dream with that is primarily, centered around a house, or it kind of stands out to you. And I feel that's one thing we probably should have mentioned in the beginning with the symbols, when you're really connecting and wanting to interpret these symbols, also take into account that the symbols more than likely are really meaningful to you, or they catch your attention, I feel like is what I should say. Like they're very eye-catching or catch your attention in the dream, or when you wake up, usually it's both.
Yeah,
So they're very moving
impactful,
for you.
memorable,
Yeah, memorable. They elicit maybe some emotions, some
traumatizing.
memories. Traumatizing, that's a big one for dreams.
Mhm.
And also, yeah, there's like this impulse or this pull, as we mentioned, it's magnetizing to want to go deeper with that symbol. Like it was so prominent. And so when you have that experience with a house in your dream, one of the first points that was made is that you want to take note of how you feel about the house. That's really
Mhm.
important. Like in the dream, I've heard a lot of people speak about the houses that show up in their dreams are houses of a childhood house that they grew up in, or maybe a family member's, or a house that they were really familiar with. And then on the other end of the spectrum, they had experiences or dreamt about houses, and especially recurring houses that, they've never lived in before, but it
Yep.
seems to show up all the time in their dream. And it's the same house, but it's just like, where did this house even come from? So I think that's pretty fascinating as well.
Yeah, I think
And
it's interesting too because some people have dreams of houses and they're juxtaposed like crazy, like they don't make sense as houses. They're very odd angles and stuff. Like dream almost like a completely general oh my God, generated house that your brain created. Like
yeah.
it they can be crazy.
So it said that houses can represent your life structures and what you've created for yourself, and it can give you insight into the current state of your psyche. So for me personally, when I've had dreams of houses, and usually, now that I'm thinking about these dreams, there's usually some element of the house that feels familiar. Like I know it's my house, but there's something that's a little bit different. And now that I'm thinking about that, I'm gonna have to reflect on it later because I'm like, like it's always my house, or sometimes it's my grandmother's house. And there was a period where there was a blend of my mother's and my grandmother's house. And so that's really interesting, but that's
That
that's
is
for me later.
interesting. You said that's the majority of the house dreams you have are
Hmm.
familiar.
They're
That is so
familiar.
interesting because I feel like I almost never, okay, I won't say that. There's a lot of dreams I have where the houses are familiar, but most of my dreams, the houses are juxtaposed. Never been there before.
Mm.
Sometimes they're like changing as I'm walking through them, like
Ooh,
really chaotic,
wow.
intense. It's just I, I think for me, most of my dreams are within houses or buildings, so it's just like it's now that I'm reflecting and thinking about how many different ones I've experienced, it's boggling.
So none of them are like the same. You haven't had a repeating, even if it wasn't a familiar house in your waking life, it hasn't
So the
repeated?
familial houses I've had dreams of, my house, my neighbor's house,
Oh, okay.
my grandfather's house, but that's not the majority of my house dreams. The majority of
Right.
my house
Oh,
dreams are
okay.
completely juxtaposed, completely
Okay.
just abstracted. Oh, I'm so sorry if you heard that. I talk with my hands, so but anyway, it's just interesting. Like it's such an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was, and now that I think about it, because there was a short period, I have to look back to my dreams because I was definitely writing my dreams at that time, and I kept having dreams about it was like I didn't want to go upstairs. I probably shared them on the chats before, because it wasn't so long ago, but it was like my grandmother was up there, and it was like the upstairs, and I didn't want to go up there. And my mom's house and my grandmother's house, they're very similar. um like the house that my grandmother was in when right before she passed away, and my mom and I lived there, her house is similar to my mom's house now.
Okay.
And so it's really interesting, and there's always something with both of those houses. It's like the stairs, like I always talk about the thresholds. So the
Yep.
stairs have, even at my mom's house now, there are times late at night I will like run up those stairs. I always turn
Yeah.
the light on, and my mom's like, "Why are you turning that light on?" I'm like, "Mom, I need to see where I'm going. I can't see, but I'm scared."
Yeah.
Okay, like I got to make sure nothing's following me.
No,
Like
I
I
get
feel
this same
something on
exact
me. I
feeling.
need the light on,
Yes.
so they can't be. Because I feel, like I said, I'm very sensitive. Like I don't see things, but I feel it. And something
Yep.
is always like up on me when I'm on our stairs. And I'm like, what the hell is this? This is in
Yeah.
waking life.
It's like
But it's
just
like
behind you, breathing
interesting.
on your
Yeah.
neck.
It's really
Ooh.
interesting that in the dreams, like now that I'm thinking about it in that period, and I think that was actually right before I went to visit my mom in June. So I definitely have to go back to those now. I'm very curious.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So we have the different parts of the house that symbolize different things or different aspects of you. And I have a list, and this is again just the perspective from actually this book here that I really like. It's called The Dream Dictionary from A to Z. I was using the ebook version, and then today I went and got the actual thing because it was only $10. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll get it.
Yeah,
Um,
I have to add that to my collection too.
right. Yeah, I was like, I want the physical copy. And so what she mentioned in the book, and this is again just her perspective, but the addicts and dreams can represent memories. The upstairs can represent your feelings. Basements can represent your intuition. And then she mentioned that downstairs, which I'm assuming is like the main floor, is your thinking process. And the stairs are is the connector of all these aspects. What I feel interesting when she mentioned attic, I don't know, for some reason I connected that with like my grandmother being at the top level. So it wasn't the attic, but it was like the upstairs, like it was an upper level. And the memories and my feelings seem to like that really resonates for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna so when we dream share, the dream I had the other night actually had to do with going out the attic, going up the stairs and going out the attic of this home to the main street of where we were. So
Oh, okay.
yeah. I have an
Interesting.
interest. I'm interested in your idea of attic because I haven't thought about it. But hearing the memories and thinking, explaining your
So
experience with
interesting.
it, like
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that aspect. I was just thinking about the house
Yeah. And
as a
then
whole.
so yeah. Yeah, and I didn't even think of these. Like I didn't know the actual specific correlations to this part of the house is this and this part of the house is that. I've come across like, just paying attention to like if you find yourself like consider the front of your house, like the very front door. That is formal. That is like the formal entry in a lot of people's homes. If they have like a single home, people will come through the garage or like the side door, versus like the front door. At my grandparents' house, the front door was like, it led to the fancy living room. People wouldn't really come into that. Like people who were strangers would come to that door, but people who were familiar knew to come to the side door. And so that was really interesting. And then when you think about the context of the front yard versus the backyard, and this is I feel a Jungian perspective where the front yard is really well kept and like you want to mow your lawn and you have
Mm-hmm.
your fancy flowers. It's like the face of who it
Yep.
is that you are versus the backyard is like a shit show. And it's like, yeah, just put
Yeah.
that in the backyard. You
The
got
untouched
toys and like house parts and like,
chaos.
dead plants and whatever.
Or
So
the
it's really
forgotten.
interesting. Right. It's like, yeah, we don't got to worry about that. Just like toss it in the backyard.
This is safe for a rainy day information.
Right. So it's really interesting to, take note of like the part of the house, like where in the house or outside the house is coming up for you and how that's a representation, like what that is, like how that is experienced in the waking life and how that can, represent some aspect of you. I think is interesting.
Absolutely. It just talking about the small amount of detail and interpretation that we did about houses and the rooms and the attics and the basements, it's kind of opening my perspective to past dreams I've had now, where
Mm-hmm.
it turned on a switch and it broadened my horizon of what that dream meant to me and how my psyche is communicating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Mary says, I don't like the energies of houses. That's funny. Uh,
That's interesting.
Christopher's here and says, hello, loves. Hello, welcome. Jim says, recurring house mansion and attic of auditorium of my high school. Wow, there's a lot going on there. So many layers. The attic of a recurring house mansion in the attic of the auditorium of your high school.
Oh, that
Ooh,
just
there's some
triggered a
layers
dream.
there. Yeah.
That just triggered a dream memory.
So, I mean, just seeing high school
Crazy.
in there, and I feel when we talked about attic, excuse me, being indicator of memories or correlating to memories, that's something that kind of makes sense. That kind of tracks there. And yeah, so that's something definitely I would I would see what else is. I mean, if you're curious, looking at what else is happening in the context of that, as well as like how you're feeling, especially if it's a
Yeah,
reoccurring type situation.
absolutely. I feel like you can get a lot of information out of um, being in that type of home. Like just thinking about the mansion, like I've never been in a mansion, at least a functioning mansion. So I
Hmm.
I have my ideas of what it would be like, but I don't personally know. So it's interesting, like, is this somewhere you've been? Is it a mansion you're familiar with?
Right.
Is
Is it
it
a,
like
yeah,
a vacation place that you've been and it just kind of stuck with you? Is it
yeah.
completely like made in through your dreams? Like that's so you can just continuously go with this. We can just
Hmm. Yeah, we can go
continuously go with
deep.
this.
Yeah. And
Oh,
to think
it's so
I was trying to get
exciting.
us to do five symbols. And
I
like
know,
we're already at
I know.
three. And it's like it's 10
10
o'clock. It's the
o'clock.
top of the hour, which is totally fine. We're gonna go over because I'm
Yeah,
sorry, friends. I
absolutely.
have to share this dream
Please.
with you guys. So, but yeah, so going back to the houses, another interpretation from a different book mentioned that it can showcase the state of your mind and the things that you're most worried about. If the house is a mess, it shows confusion in your life. If the house is full of people, it can show that things are getting out of control. Mary mentioned, what about moving stairs like Harry Potter, creating disorientation for me? Yeah, moving stairs is like maybe there's if stairs are the connector of
Instability
all aspects. Yeah, it could be instability, like a disconnection, or
or
you
a
said it right
bridge
there,
that's burning.
disorientation. Hmm?
That's kind of so that immediately popped in my head as possibly like a metaphorical bridge burning is like the shaky
Interesting.
staircase or the moving staircase. It might be like you're going in one direction, but your life is kind of being pulled in a different direction. It could represent that, like struggling to make a decision. Ooh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a like it's like what do I choose? Like where am I like yeah, because you mentioned disorientation, so it definitely feels like where am I going to orient myself next? Like you're kind of in that space of not quite sure. So let's see, we have some more comments here. So Christopher says houses are wild because they can mean very different things for people in their dreams. From horrible, abusive prisons to your most favorite place to ever be, each room can mean something different. Yeah, and I've definitely come across the interpretation, and I feel that I've had this experience with my own dreams where oh yeah, the dream I was talking about going upstairs, it can feel like there can be some fear. So maybe some aspect of that self, or in my case, if I'm thinking about the memories and the feelings pertaining and my grandmother's at the top of the stairs, right? My grandmother, for those of you that don't know, my grandmother passed away 20 years ago. And I've been in this, like my dream work has literally helped me heal that relationship. And so the energy and the fear, the anxiety that I felt seeing, like I at some points I would see her up there, or I would just know she was up there. And so that in itself, that fear is like in my waking life was a fear of tapping into more memories of her and my feelings about that. And then being that that was the house that she pretty much ended her life in, like my experience there as an 18-year-old experiencing that was like really traumatic. So I like really blocked out a lot of things in that time period. So it was like that was an invitation to like open that box. And yeah, so that fear there can give you an indication if you're kind of having some hesitation or anxiety or fear about going into a specific room, if it feels scary or haunted, there's something there. There's a
Yeah.
reason why it's feeling that way. And this is when lucid dream is can come, are very powerful because you can just go
Yeah, and
and check
even
it
if you're
out.
lucid and you can decide not to as well. You might not be ready for it. I've had my circumstances where there were some directions I was very willing to go and others that I just was like, this is for another time. It's there's so much. We can go so far into that.
Yeah. So we have I don't recognize this name, Phoenix Leo Rising 333. Welcome. Thank you for commenting. We love seeing new names. Says that they dreamt of a black and blue butterfly and saw it in their waking state later on that day. Wow. Yeah. So that is a sign to me is a sign and a symbol, which
Yeah,
signs, yeah, we
absolutely.
didn't talk about the difference, but I feel if it's so symbols essentially are they have a very deep meaning and a purpose. And there's an underlying deep meaning and deep purpose. And with the symbols, I know that it said that just the power of dwelling on them or dwelling in them can unlock something for you or do something
Yep.
for you. Maybe it'll be self-transformative or healing. And in the podcast that we were talking about, the episode, um, that we mentioned at the beginning of this chat, he mentioned just watching women in a church or people in a church um, connecting with the Virgin Mary, right? In that
Hmm.
image and like just being very present with it. And if you are not connected and you're not a part of that community or religion or you don't have that connection, you're just like, okay, it's an image of, a mother and a baby. Like you can get it, but you don't have that connection. Like you're not by dwelling on it, you're not really getting that healing. But for the
Yeah, it
people
doesn't
where it's
spark
really
emotion.
right, when it's really meaningful and purposeful, and there's just a really deep source connection to it, just dwelling in it, gazing at the image unlocks so much for you. It's healing. And then he mentioned how they would kiss the icon and then move to a different one. And it made me think about just Buddhist practices and my experience with that and going to temples and how it's really important to have, or you don't have to have it, but they say when you're doing the practices and the mantras, it's really nice to have an image of, say, in my case, green Tara, to just have that visualization, and it kind of brings that energy and the essence of her energy that you're connecting with. It brings it into some sort of like physical representation or manifestation, like it's easier to connect, as that is this symbolism for what she represents, and then there's healing that comes from that. And then they went into signs, where signs have, there's a direct meaning of it. Like a
Yep,
sign is a
direct
sign,
meaning.
right? Where they mention a lot about Starbucks. Like, when you see the Starbucks sign, that means coffee and, whatever that means for you. But I feel in this context, it's like to see the symbol come forth in the dream and then manifest in the waking life, it feels deeply symbolic. And then
Yeah,
I feel
I
like
think
there's
so
a
too.
sign with that, maybe that you would know personally.
Or even
Um,
just the sign to pay attention, like sometimes our dreams give us little hints, you're not paying attention enough, so you kind of have this um precognitive dream, and it might be small, but it's significant enough for you to start paying more attention to dreams and life and how things align. There's a lot you can
yeah,
take from that. And the deeper you go, it goes into your personal, like, what does it symbolize to you? Is it a representation of
yeah,
somebody who's passed? Is it yourself? Is it a reflection of yourself? Is it
yeah.
a period of transformation, flight, freedom? There's a lot you can take out of it.
Transformation, like, yeah. Okay, so Phoenix Leo Rising says, hello, first time watching. And yes, I'm really excited about this comment. So they say, oh my God, I went to a Catholic church today. I'm not Catholic, went for another reason. Ladies prayed for me today. It was healing. I'm a witch slash hoodoo, so I don't take up religion, but interesting. Thank you for that interpretation. Yeah, like I love when
It
like
can be
I love when
like
this stuff happens.
it can empower you so much to pay attention to your dreams and dive deeper into it. You get an idea of yourself, you get a better understanding of where you are in existence, and it's all entirely personal to you. That's what makes
Yeah,
it so unique. It's like everybody has the ability to dream, and all the dreams that they have are completely unique to themselves, even if it's the same imagery. So I would, if you haven't started writing them down already, I
yeah,
would, because you might be unlocking layers to your psyche that you may not have gotten to as quickly without paying
yeah,
attention.
yeah.
That's it's very interesting, and I love when that happens.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to add is just, as we mentioned with the dream dictionaries, as far as like the older cultures, the ancient cultures, they would take note of the dreams and then see what, came forth. And they were definitely, I'm sure, way more connected and less distracted than we are
Mm-hmm.
now. And so I don't know, maybe it manifested quicker, who knows? But I think,
I'm sure.
yeah, I think
I'm
this
actually
is,
pretty, like, I'm positive that it manifested quicker for people back in times when the distractions weren't so intense and they were able to live a little bit more freely and more relaxed, and it opened up space in their lives for a deeper understanding quicker, at least.
yeah,
I
and
feel like with the
slower moving
yes, slower
lives.
moving, time wasn't used the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
It was understood, but it was just different. The hustle and bustle of everyday life nowadays, and the
yeah,
phones and our jobs and everything, it just puts a big blockage in our
yeah,
ability to reach within ourselves and understand more.
yeah. No, it definitely, yeah, it's like you can gain more awareness when you are moving slower in life. All right, so it is time to bring this to a close. One last thing I did want to add really quick is that when you are when you're paying attention to your dreams and interpreting them, one thing is to remember or to take into consideration is what is it called, day residue in your dream. So if you have a symbol come up, you can also ask yourself, did I encounter this? Say if
Yeah,
it was, in my case, the insect documentary, my daughter's really into insects and we watch insect documentaries every day, all day long. So that didn't stand out to me. That wasn't weird. So it's like that made sense. It's something I encounter throughout the day. And I feel with the dream symbols, if it's something that's something that's out of the ordinary, that is noteworthy that's
mm-hmm.
something to take note of because that could be important. And of course, especially if you haven't come across that like in the like couple days before you had the dream. Any last
Absolutely.
words that you want to add at all or
I just thank you all for being here, and we are going to be here next week. So
yeah, we'll
please
be here
join us
next
if you can.
Wednesday.
And I hope
Yes.
you all have wonderful dreams and write them down and share them. We do have a forum for dream sharing. It is on Urania's website, which I'm sure is linked in
Yeah, it's linked in
your
the
YouTube.
description of the direct
Um,
link to the forum. Yeah, where you can drop your dreams there and we'll connect with you on that. Absolutely.
Perfect. Yeah, please. We can share them if you want. We'll interpret them. Just please interact and expand your dream realms with us.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for being here. If you like the video, please like the video, please subscribe and comment and share, do all the things. And we will be here next week, 9 p.m. and to chat more about dreams.
Yay.
Bye everyone. Sweet
Bye,
dreams.
everyone.